Wolfpack Nation, thank you all so much for tuning in today. I could personally say this is an interview I've been very excited about. I know for Make and I, when we first started this, we were looking forward to this day, and we're so excited this year as we are here today with Coach or Athletic Director Debbie Yow. Thank you so much, Debbie, for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm now Athletic Director Emeritus.
Right.
But because I'm female, it's actually Emerita.
Emerita.
No S?
Yeah.
Really? Huh.
No, there isn't. It's with a TA instead of a TUS. Yep.
So, and it's not in the country, North Carolina. It's not Emerita, is it? It's just Emerita.
Emerita.
Could be either one.
Yeah.
Could be either one. Making good point.
That's true. Okay.
Absolutely. So, but before we get started, though, please make sure, again, if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button. It's free to do and really help support us in the channel. Please give this video a like, check out all of our great in-state content, and give us a follow at Tuffy Talk Now on Twitter or Instagram. But again, jumping right into it, Debbie. So the first thing we always love to do with people we interview is really just kind of allow our viewers to kind of get an opportunity to kind of help understand kind of what are you up to right now? Where are you at? And so I know that from you and I talking that you're very involved with the board of directors at Elon University, which is awesome. And then still do a whole lot of college sports overall in general. But I'm sure it seems like you're still very busy from day to day.
Yeah. Well, there's busy, what a normal person might consider to be busy, and then there's busy being a full-time athletic director. So I'm busy like I would consider a regular human being to be.
Okay.
And that is I'm doing my board work, Board of Trustees at Elon. Just got back from Las Vegas for a meeting of the National Board for the National Football Foundation, and we had our Hall of Fame induction for both coaches and for we honor student athletes as well, who are great football players who also have great GPAs and community service. And then a year ago, I started working with a group called the National Coalition of Minority Football Coaches. And Nick Saban's on that board as well. And our job, our goal is to do the best we can to help minority coaches get ready for the next step, whether it's a position coach to a coordinator's position or a coordinator to a head coach. And so those three things, if you do them well, then they keep me fairly busy. And then I get a lot of calls. I do get a lot of calls because I was in the enterprise. I call it the enterprise. I don't call it the industry. I don't call it the business. It's the enterprise because it's everything. It's not it's a quasi business. It could be a business in the afternoon. And in the morning, you might be talking about graduation rates to the athletic council, the faculty members there. But people that I've known for a long time will call and talk to me about potential job opportunities. As an example, they might have, or they're trying to decide between two different options, and they just need a sounding board and someone who understands the enterprise. So I do as much of that as I do anything else.
Makes sense.
That's really neat. I was, at least from a fan's perspective, and hearing you speak while you're the athletic director at NC State, and before, how you focus so hard, and even at Maryland too, about having an all-around athletic program. And you mentioned the GPA even now. Obviously, the performance of sports is big. Is there a backstory to why you took that philosophy, or why that is so critical to you?
Well, there are two reasons primarily. There might be more than two if I thought harder about it, but the two that come to mind right away, one is I was an Olympic sport coach. So as a women's basketball coach at Kentucky and Oral Roberts University and the University of Florida, I know what it feels like to be an Olympic sport coach and how terrific it is when someone pays attention to what you're doing and acts like they really, really care about whether or not you're successful. That's one reason. The reason as an AD per se is this: when you're trying to develop a culture, and there are, books, how many books have been written on how do you develop culture and what is culture? And culture is so simple in this regard. It's everything you say and do. That's your culture. There it is. And so we were number 89 in the Directors Cup in 2010. We wanted to do better. And I said at the press conference, we would become a top 25 program. People kind of snickered, and I understand that. the long story short is you celebrate every success. So it doesn't matter who gets there first, who wins the next ACC championship, or who advances further than we've ever advanced in the NCAA tournament. You celebrate it all, because as you celebrate it around the table at the coaches' meetings, things begin to shift.
Mm-hmm.
People begin to, I loved watching it happen. And we already had pockets of success. And back in the day, we had a lot of success. So it isn't like we had never been there. So I felt like we could be there again. So it's like when Lori Hennis wins the championship, the national championship in cross country. We'd been headed toward that for a long time.
Right.
And she's the right person, the right coach at the right time. So if you're sitting there as another coach and you're seeing someone else being celebrated for what they've done, of course you're sitting there. If you have any competitive spirit at all, you're thinking, I'd like to be in that position. I wonder what we can get done. And so over time, it takes a while, but over time it begins to take hold. And then as you hire other people, you try to hire people who have that competitive spirit. And then before long, you look around the table and you have Braden Holloway and George Kiefer and Tim Santoro and Pat Popolizio and Braden Holloway. And now you've got energy so much in the room. I mean, you can feel it when you walk in.
It sounds like it's
so that's why.
It sounds like that way you're kind of describing it in abbreviated terms. It's a contagious factor. It sounds like it breeds more and more fuel, and belief to a degree.
It does.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
It does do that. You don't have to force it. It has nothing to do with that. It's all organic, and that's why it works so well.
Absolutely. And so one thing too, Debbie, that I think for myself, from talking to former players that I know personally, that were there when you were there, was that all of them said multiple times how they define you as kind of a player's AD. That that you had a great relationship with the players, that you wanted to know how they were feeling, how they were doing, everything about it. And I feel like for me, at least, you don't hear that a lot from athletic directors around the country necessarily, about how obvious it is that how great relationship you have with the players. So do you feel that being an athletic director, that having that close relationship with the players really helps you do better at your job? And then can you even kind of talk a little bit about some of the relationships that even you may still have with players?
Well, I first of all, I think you'd be surprised on a national level how many ADs covet the opportunity to spend time with their athletes. The second thing is you give a lot of that up when you become an AD. You really do, because suddenly you're not responsible for 2 or 3 sports. As a sport administrator, you're responsible for everything.
Right.
And your life is just eaten up with things that have nothing to do with your to-do list and what you thought you were going to do that day. You might not ever even get to anything on that list. I think of the people that I spent the most time with are the coaches. And through the coaches, you try to make things better for the athletes. So, again, it's not anything you force. So I don't think it's so much the amount of time as it is the quality of the time. If you can really help them with their issues when they come to you. Normally they're going to their coaches.
Right.
It's usually when they become seniors and the reality that they're going to graduate is finally upon them, and they start thinking, who can help me with the next phase of my life? That's when I would see more of that. And so, they reach out to me, and, I've tweeted a couple of notes with their permission. And it's really special to me. Naheem, I think, sent me something, a gift, and and he's with the Colts, and it matters to me whether they're, great football student athletes or whatever team they're on. But I always think about it like the linkage for me is the AD is working, coaching the coaches in a sense, not in the X's and O's. It's just helping them through those tough spots when they're not sure what to do next, whether it's an issue with a student athlete that's really serious, or any number of other choices. And they all have day-to-day sports supervisors. I'm not an AD who this probably were years, have been years when I was still active and working that I wasn't even signing financial paperwork for teams. That's the job of the sports supervisors. I give them the parameters. You stay under budget. You do nothing illegal, nothing immoral.
Yep.
And life is going to be good. You step over those boundaries and you will feel my presence in a major way.
Sure.
I love it.
And so they create their own space by how well things go. Well, like people say, what's your management style? Well, it depends on who you are. I mean, I've had people I would have to track down to say, hey, haven't seen you in a few days. I'd like to say hello. How are things going? Because they're so good at what they do. They're moving along, and I want them to. And then there are other people, if it's not going well, they would feel my presence a lot because I want to know everything that's going on because I'm trying to evaluate whether or not this is going to work.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You touched on it a little bit earlier, but when you are hiring coaches, especially younger coaches that can be sometimes unproven, like Braden Holloway, you mentioned, Pat Popolizio, even Dave Doran at the time he was hired. Is there a common trait you're looking for between them all, or does it just kind of differ sport to sport and coach to coach?
Well, it's not an absolute, but a common thread that we do look for, and that people, the search committees, the people that we put together in senior management and athletics, I always say to them, look for someone who doesn't fit in the top 25. So a good example would be Braden, and who, of course, Braden was associate head coach at Virginia Tech. Pat Popolizio was head coach at, the little school in the Northeast. Yeah. It's terrible of me not to be able to remember the name of the school he came from. Sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry. Can't remember.
Yeah, it's okay.
We were looking at the top 25 for wrestling. And number 5 was the school Pat was at. And I said, where is that? What school is that? And they Googled it and said, it's in New York. It's upstate New York, we think. And who's the coach? A guy named Pat Popolizio. I said, how do you say that name again? Popolizio. And so we knew immediately there's something happening good there because they shouldn't be that. So you bring them in, you see if the fit is appropriate. In Braden's case, he had never been a head coach. I wanted to hire a head coach. We were really kind of pursuing the head coach at Michigan at that time. But, once we met Braden, all the ideas that we really needed to hire a head coach who was a sitting head coach, it just kind of went out the window because Braden is Braden. And I said to Braden, look, I was told we will never be good in swimming because the pool is only 4.5 feet deep in one end and the pool doesn't swim fast. And he just looked at me. And he said, I said, what's your response to that? I mean, how does this work? I'm a basketball coach. Is that true?
Educate.
He said, Debbie, water is wet. I said, what?
That's what I'm thinking.
He said, water is wet. We might not get our fastest times in our pool, but we'll go. At that time, Maryland just built a new pool. And he said, we'll go to Maryland and as an example, and that's that pool swims the fastest right now in our league. This is obviously before they left for the Big Ten. And he said, we'll get our best times there. I said, so it's not a factor? He said, no, it's not a factor at all. So I thought, I like this guy. He's a no excuses kind of guy. And they were partying a little bit too much. And, the thing that worried me, kept me up at night, would be their safety. So, there's a reason people say our brains are not fully formed until we're 25. And you can see it play out in a lot of different ways. And so you need people, the student athletes need people around them. They benefit most when someone with good common sense and strong leadership skills is there as a head coach. And he had all of that. So those are two examples,
I love it.
and it looks like it's working out pretty well.
Yeah, I had to look it up real quick. It was Binghamton is where Papa Liz is.
Binghamton.
That's where he's from.
Thank you.
Binghamton.
And you mentioned,
I should remember.
And you mentioned,
no, Billy Baldwin. You know the Baldwin brothers.
I think I've heard of their names. Yes,
and so Billy was a wrestler at Binghamton, and we became friends. And we text, and he's in Europe right now. They're making a movie, but he loves Pat. And so that's how Pat kind of dragged him along with him to NC State. And Billy also does the court side at the national championships for wrestling. He carries around a mic for ESPN and interviews people and does different things. He really loves the sport.
Wow.
So he's a fan now of NC State.
Yeah,
that's great.
Before we continue, I want to take a quick second to tell you about our sponsor, Flightlands Jessup Insurance Group, that has your whole world covered, with agents in 5 offices throughout eastern North Carolina to help you decide how much coverage you need. Offering policies for home and auto, recreational vehicles, commercial, crop, health, life, and employee benefits. They are able to combine options to find a comprehensive solution that works for you. Flightlands Jessup protects the things you love so you can spend less time worrying and more time enjoying them. Find them on Facebook and Instagram at Flightlands Jessup. You can also visit their webpage at www.flightlandsjessup.com. So please make sure to go and check them out. Well, and because you kind of mentioned on it, I mean, looking at, the wrestling program and how, I mean, they're consistently competing for a top 5 national championships. I mean, there's no doubt that Papa Lisu has the program heading in the right direction. Looking at swimming and diving, how great they're doing, softball even, just signed the number 4 overall recruiting class. I mean, there's so many sports. I mean, Westmore, women's basketball, I mean, they've been phenomenal. So, I mean,
Yep.
do you ever just take a look at this program right now and, I mean, feel that warmness inside of because I know that was a goal of yours. So kind of looking as I did it almost of a sort.
I'm proud of them. I mean, Kim Landris is here in gymnastics.
We interviewed her.
I didn't think we could hire her because she had finished number 11 in the country 3 out of her 6 years as head coach at Illinois.
Absolutely.
And I'm telling the group, like, y'all, come on. She's been number 11 in the nation 3 times. We brought her in anyway, and lo and behold, she and her husband decided they're going to move their family here. And I would make the case, although I don't know what happened this year, but George Kiefer in soccer and Santoro killing it. Just generally, it's taken us to another level in that sport. And how about tennis? Kyle
Women's
Spencer
tennis,
and Simon Earnshaw.
Yeah.
I know.
Underrated.
Goodness. So, you kind of have to be ready, not just as an AD, but as a senior associate AD. You bring in people like this who are goal-oriented, if not driven. You better buckle up because you're going to hear from them a lot. I need this. I need that. And it's a great trade-off if you really want to try to build a program. Because I would make the case that in a number of these sports, they're overachieving. Given they don't have all the bells and whistles that some people have, and that makes it even more special. And absolutely. I think Boo has hired a couple of people, and it looks like they're going to. I know volleyball is looking better.
Patrick Swift, yeah.
Well, no. Yeah.
I'm thinking
how
softball.
do you say his name?
I'm thinking
Luca.
Luca Slabe.
That's right.
Luca Slabe.
Yeah. So I mean, that's looking up. And I think we have a new rifle coach, Kelly Carter, but I don't know. It's a different person. So, but most of the others are still there. And Dave just had a really good year in a nice bowl as a reward.
Yeah.
Holiday bowl. You hate that it's so far away for the fans. Really.
Well, yeah.
And the families, but it's a nationally known bowl and a nationally known opponent.
Yeah.
So make a big splash.
Carried on TV. I think it's the only bowl game on Fox.
Prime time. Yeah, prime time.
Yes. So do you guys know who the all-time winningest coach in the history of NC State is in any sport?
In any sport.
Is it your sister?
So
I'm joking.
But she's good.
Yeah.
But no. I've got 2 questions for you. That's one of them. I got another one for you too. All-time winningest coach.
Most wins.
Man.
I don't know. That's so hard.
Well, it's not football because there's only 12 games a year. So, but
is it
Everett Case maybe?
Yeah, I was gonna say Norm Sloan.
I I was thinking a basketball coach, but
North Sloan or every
She's
case?
like, you guys are just rookies.
Well,
killing me.
I'm going to qualify it by saying it's the person that has won the most ACC championships of any coach. That should help a little bit, but you don't have all day here. You're trying to run a program here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
We just had a trivia segment a while ago, so this is
put
a good
you out
one.
of your misery here. I've
Put me out
got
of
another
misery.
one for you too.
Okay.
I'm sure you could
Raleigh
go.
Raleigh Geiger.
Raleigh Geiger.
Raleigh Geiger
Okay.
is the all-time
Wow.
winningest coach in the history of.
It's a good
It's
first
just
name.
never
in the
guessed that.
sport.
Yeah, we dominated for years.
Cross country,
we dominated, and we I'm not. Yes, we don't dominate necessarily right now, but he had a period of time where he just dominated. Now here's my second and last question. Trivia
Love it.
question. Okay, who was the first female All-American in any sport at NC State?
Is it Hennis?
Well, I'm gonna let you guess. Is that the only guess we got?
No, that's
no,
my
I'll-
first guess because I just know she was a runner, and very good one
Oh.
at that early on.
And she was an All-American. It's true.
Yeah,
She was an
one of those
All-American.
earliest.
As was her daughter recently.
You correct?
Oh yeah, I forgot.
I feel like I remember
Yeah.
because we talked about women's basketball. Women's basketball
Mhm.
had
Yeah, that
even
was
an
on our
AC
trivia.
Player of the Year. I think she was AC Player of the Year back in like the
This was
I don't remember who it was.
4K.
though.
it was a women's basketball player, and it
Mhm.
was in the 1975-76 season.
Yep. So yeah, right before.
Who was it?
Dang, Debbie.
Don't know the
I
name.
have no
Oh.
idea. I'm gonna be honest with
But
you.
hey,
Don't know
I'm
the
just proud
name.
of myself. I'm just proud of myself that it sounds like I got the sport right. Which is
I mean,
great.
was
You did.
was Debbie
once you say
Antonelli there
Debbie,
that
once-
year? I don't know.
No,
No,
that's
no.
too-
She's
that's
way too
younger
early.
than that.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's way too early for her.
that's why I felt like that was
Yeah.
too old. I don't know.
Put us out of our misery, Debbie. You're
Okay.
got the good ones for us.
The first female All-American in any women's sport at NC State University was Susan Yow, my younger sister.
Oh,
Yeah.
Wow.
So
How did
she and
know?
I played for Kay at Elon, and then I graduated.
Okay.
And
Mhm.
Susan had 2 years of eligibility left. So Susan played at Elon for Kay in 74-75. And then Willis Casey, the longtime AD
Yeah.
at State, called Kay and personally recruited her to come to NC State to do something with women's basketball.
Okay.
And so back in the day, the women belonged to a whole nother association called the AIAW,
Mhm.
the Association for Intercollegiate Athletics for Women, I think, something like that, before the NCAA,
Right.
which we joined in 1980. So
Mhm.
right.
you could transfer and play immediately. And Susan had 1 year
Wow.
left, and she had
Yep.
just made All-American
Mhm.
at Elon.
Mm.
It's the first year we ever had All-American. So
Wow.
So she would have made it 4 years, but they didn't have it her freshman, sophomore year. They started her junior year. It was called Kodak All-American back in the day versus a McDonald's or something.
Yep.
And so she transferred with Kay
Hmm.
and made All-American.
NC
Still
State.
holds the single game rebound record. She was actually a point guard, believe it or not, at 5'10", and I think it was 26 rebounds in one game. It was something.
Wow.
You're just like
unreal.
educating us so
That's a
hard right
point
now.
guard.
Well, see,
No,
No.
I have to know that one. Like when we redid
Right.
Yeah.
Reynolds, Susan
Yeah.
called me and said, "Hey, you know my jersey that's in the rafters?" I said, "Yes, I know your jersey's in the rafters." And she said, "What about it?" She said, "Well, it just says Yow, and people think it's for K. When you redo it, can you put my initial on there?"
Yeah,
I said, "Okay, Susan, I'll try." And so
that's true.
you might know a guy.
I told Michael Lippitz, and we told Michael Lippitz that, who was chair of the building committee, and what they decided. The building committee decided on the jerseys. They weren't just going to put initials anyway. They put the entire name. So if you walked in Reynolds today, Susan's jersey is there, and it says Susan Yow.
Is in all
So in
caps, SUSAN, Yow.
Well, I didn't tell her that we had done that, until the first time she walked into Reynolds 5 years ago.
Oh, wow.
She was thinking there might be an S up there, so she was thrilled when
That's
she saw
cool.
the
Oh, that's
entire
awesome.
name there.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And one last question for you too, Debbie, and I think this one that I was definitely excited to bring up. But I mean, you kind of talk about basketball, and obviously, I feel like that without talking to you, that I can, more likely guess that women's basketball, especially at State, has a special place for sure. And so, looking at Wes Moore, especially when you brought him on, how knowing that he was a former KL assistant and obviously did very well previously, and obviously has been doing amazing now. Would you say that that really that there was that kind of extra sense of like, we're going to get women's basketball to that level that you and your family would expect it to be at? And then, are you surprised at all at how successful Wes has been? Consistently, probably now and for the near future, being a elite program in the women's basketball world.
Well, I didn't plan on hiring Wes, and he knows this. You should interview him sometime just about what that interview process was like.
Yeah.
I had different women in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
I had hired a number of men to coach women's sports. We just mentioned a couple, like Braden, still had women's swimming, and Tim Santoro had women's soccer, and I was feeling it. Like there are talented women. You've got to go find talented women.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And we reached out to both of them, and each of them said, this is several years ago, and each of them said, well, in separate conversations, I could not consider it because you're not in a good place for at least $700,000. And so I told the committee that made it easy for me in the sense that I didn't have $700,000.
Right.
So we're not even close.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So those two people were off the table, and Wes came for the interview, and it was a little bit like the Braden experience when he came to interview. He made a definite impression on me and was willing to grow with us. Mm-hmm. So he was willing to take the job for 4, not 7. Mm. And I said to him, if you do the job and you do it well, we're going to.
It's going to happen.
We're going to take care of you. And so he finally did come on board. And then he said to me one day early on, he said, I know you love Reynolds and so do I, but to 17-year-olds, this is just an old, tired building. And I said, we're working on it. At that point in time, I didn't know that the campus needed and wanted to have a place to have convocation on campus and student concerts and different things. And so when they came to the table with $15 million, it was the first time only time they ever partnered with athletics on a facility. So we did, through the Wolfpack Club, did 20 million and they did 15.
Wow.
And suddenly it became a real possibility. Otherwise we'd still have the same building. We could not have done that without the campus. And Wes said it was transformational for him in recruiting when we created an updated, upscale competition venue that, was lovely. And when it's full, it's really something, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So it all kind of worked together. The timing worked together. And I'm just grateful he took the risk in coming here. And it probably took longer to turn it around than he wanted to. But we did need to get the facility straightened out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because to lifelong NC State fans like you and a lot of us, the old Reynolds has a lot of memories and it's really cool. But, to 17-year-old kids who don't have any connection to the school, it's not that impressive.
Sure. And we tried to keep a number of the artifacts. We tried to keep things in the Walk of Fame and History that we created throughout the building so that people could still wander through the building and see some things that look familiar to them and reminisce and talk about the good old days and the games when Coach Valvano was there and when Coach Sloan was there. And I think, the first time I told them what we wanted in the building, and then the first estimate we got was $51 million. And I remember thinking, well, y'all, that's $16 million more than we have. That's not happening. And they said, they use, they use the words, value engineer. They said, you need to value engineer the building. What do you want to take out? We had to take out a lot of stuff, but I would make the case today that I can't even remember what we took out. At the time, I thought it was terrible to have to cut different things, but now I can't even remember what it was. I love it so
Right.
much, and I
Yes.
just hope, and I think we will keep it up, keep it looking nice, keep it
yes.
looking fresh. You know.
Oh yes, we'll
Definitely.
keep the house that Case built looking fresh. Absolutely. So
Yeah, that's
so-
right.
So
Which case?
So thank you all so much again for tuning in. Really appreciate y'all's support. Make sure to tune in with us for part 2 as we continue on here with this great conversation. Please make sure again to hit that subscribe button, give us a like, check out all of our great estate content, and follow us at Tuffy Talk Now on Twitter, Instagram. But thank you all so much. As always, go Pack, y'all.